Evening, everyone. Welcome to another Mid-Curve AMA. This is Eric and Salty here, hosting Dakotah, the head of growth at the Timeless Finance team. Dakotah, thank you for joining us. How are you doing today?
Thank you for bringing me on. Life is very good. It's nice out today, which, we're just getting through winter here, so very happy to finally get some good weather. Market seems to be doing okay, so can't complain. Love what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's been a good week. Everyone's able to get the money out of their banks, and this morning I think we all found out that we're gonna get a little early Christmas gift from the nice people at ARB. Um, so yeah, things are pumping, and we're really excited to have you here today to really learn more about what you guys are doing at Timeless and Bunny. So I guess to get things rolling, like can you just tell me a little bit about yourself, the team, how all of this came together and what you guys are looking to do at Timeless?
Real quick before we do that, can I give a very opinionated context real quick?
Yes.
We have a lot of the people in our group are very NFT focused. We got a handful of DeFi folks, and I don't know, with all our listeners where they're at, but I'm gonna give you my very opinionated take on things, which is that mainnet, Ethereum mainnet runs the world and has 10 to 20 to 50 times as much TVL as any L2, and mainnet will always be the king of that castle. And on mainnet, we've gone through a few cycles of AMM and DEX wars, and really those have, in my opinion, like I said, this was opinionated, they've settled, and it's really Curve, Uniswap, and maybe Balancer as a third, and those really make up a massive amount of all the transaction volume that happens on mainnet. That said, Uniswap just exists and does not have a incentivization, a liquidity layer on top of it. It certainly doesn't have the types of things that we see going on with Balancer and with Curve. And so I want to set the stage with that there is a uni token, the way there's a Curve and a BAL token, but there certainly is no convex token, there's no aura token, there's no redacted, for Uniswap. All these things don't exist because they can't exist in the way Uniswap v3 is built because there's no incentivization, there's no fee collection, stuff like that. So that's my quick context for where we're at in the world of mainnet dexes, and we'll probably talk on the yield interest rate swap type protocols, which is a different world, but all brought together in Timeless. So that's the context I would give where we're at with the dexes, and sorry to cut you off, Dakotah. I'll let you go on your team's background and what you're building.
Totally cool. I enjoyed hearing your opinion. So yeah, there's four of us right now, three developers and myself. The three devs, know, my opinion is that these guys are extremely underrated. I think by the end of all this, at least my goal here in growth is to kind of bring light to the attention of these three, and hopefully I can do my part about that. They're underrated and will eventually hopefully be looked at kind of as crypto rock stars. So they've been in crypto for a while. The first project that actually we all four came from was 88 MPH, where they focused on fixed yield rates in a pretty cool organic way, where they went in and use Aave as an example. They take a percentage of the variable rate and offer it as a fixed rate, and then go behind the scenes and sell the variable rate to someone who wants to speculate on that. So whoever's ended up speculating on the yield associated with the variable rate ends up getting this like really cool, um, high leveraged, highly volatile yield token, and then that pays for the fixed rate for the other user. So super cool product. Probably a little before its time, honestly.
It was 88 MPH. Was that one of the first attempts at like doing an interest rate or yield swap type protocol on Ethereum?
Yeah, yeah, they were pretty early on, and I mean, the chart will kind of show that to you. The excitement was pretty unreal for a while for those guys. That is actually how I found out about the team. I got into crypto during 2020. I always kind of did the stock market thing, and I just happened to time the market correctly, and I was short the stock market, the S&P 500, about a week before COVID hit, and so rode it all the way down and bought call options in silver, and it just exploded, right? And I was like, oh my God, what do I do now? Like how do I find safety? And that's when I still wanted a fast horse, but I didn't want to be in call options anymore. And so found out about Bitcoin and kind of went on from there. And so, you know, watched and learned during DeFi summer and saw what these guys were doing. And I went from listening to them to getting to join the team, thankfully, and that's one of the really cool things about Web3, right? Like if you'll put in the work, you can contribute to these protocols. So
Mhm.
yeah, these all three of our big devs, McFly, Seth, and Zephram, have been doing this type of stuff for a while now. Not their first project. I think they all three have web. Yeah, they all three have Web 2 experience. Zephram's just been doing stuff for so long, right? That it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah,
Yeah,
he
so Sudo is the other project I know that he's worked on. Is that right? Or I'm sorry, Sudo Swap, the NFT marketplace.
Yep, and it seems like that's going pretty well too. He has a website out there somewhere. I think if you get on his profile, you can see all of the, or at least a lot of the projects he's like helped in one form or another with. But yeah, SudoSwap and Timeless at this point are his two main focuses, from what I understand.
Yeah, I remember we were in the NFT world here in our Discord. I mean, people were very excited when SudoSwap dropped. I mean it's still great. I don't know, how the market share splits up, but I mean, it was like, big brain stuff. We were all like, yes, next generation of NFT DeFi. It does seem like Zephyr is often a little too early to these markets. Like he's got the idea and launches it just a little too early, huh?
It's really cool to see. I it seems like he is at any moment, going to catch lightning in a bottle. I think what we've seen so far is a good example, with Bunny, because this all got started with Timeless, right? And the idea for Bunny was a solution to what we needed for Timeless, and you just saw the magic start to unfold. And uh, I am pretty bullish on Safran in general, and as I said, the whole team there.
Me too. And I guess we probably should have said at the top of this that me and Eric are both like, have purchased these tokens. So not financial advice and all that stuff.
Yeah, not financial advice. We're all bag holders. Legal safe harbor, yada yada yada. Please don't sue. Um, but yeah, I mean, that's really really helpful context. But I think like for a lot of the members of the mid curve, we're kind of just starting to dip our toes into DeFi. Um, I think it was, it was pretty funny that during the week of the Blur airdrop, that was sort of, I think, the week that a lot of the members of this Discord started to learn like how to LP, what the differences between different fee structures, how to structure and size a pool. And so I think that's kind of opened things up in terms of our just general curiosity into the space. And obviously, I think when Salty initially brought up Timeless, we started digging into it, and it became one of those things where, I think immediately we sort of looked at it at a high level and said, look, if this works the way that it's supposed to, um, it seems amazing because as Salty alluded to at the like in the end, you're really what you're really optimizing for, is how to properly incentivize liquidity on Uniswap, how to create sort of the similar type of wheels that exist for curve balancer and solidly and associated forks. And that's a really critical problem because Uniswap is probably the most core piece of infrastructure in on Ethereum that nobody ever wants to pay for. So I think like, why don't we sort of get into at a high level, how Timeless and Bunny sort of work, and how you guys have approached solving this problem.
Let's start with Timeless and then work our way to Bunny. Timeless was developed to help with capital efficiency. And we do that by allowing users to long and short yield. How that would kind of work in the real world is that a user comes onto Timeless and deposits, let's say, one staked ETH into Timeless, and the yield for staked ETH at that time is 4%. They will, in return, get a staked ETH PYT, a staked ETH NYT. Staked ETH PYT is going to have 100% of that yield, and the staked ETH NYT is actually going to trade opposite of the PYT. So,
Is that positive and negative yield token? Is that the acronym?
the PYT stands for perpetual yield token. Negative yield token is the other one.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, feel free to ask questions. So anyway, how you're going to end up getting this? What this means is that if you go and you sell that NYT, you're going to get perpetual yield that has no risk of liquidation, um, and has a little bit of leverage. And I mean that's a pretty cool tool. And your risk here is that because you're actually what you're doing is you're longing the yield market in that situation. So your risk would be that the yield goes down, the market determines that yield could potentially stay down and or go down more in the future, and they start valuing the NYT more. And so you could potentially lose some of your capital associated with it if you were to exit at that point in time. But if you don't exit at that point in time, or if you decide to hold it for forever, whether it goes up or down, you're going to receive 100% of the yield that was associated with the underlying. So you're almost always going to get this boost, unless things just, if it just nuked and went to zero, I guess. It doesn't trade in a vacuum, but because you get that yield, you should always kind of have some sort of value. What's cool about the NYT is that this allows you to come in and speculate and kind of have a bearish bias on the yield markets. So in most cases, let's use staked ETH as an example. As more people go and stake in the Lido staked ETH product, which as long as everything stays correct for them, I would think they would, because that seems like a pretty, it's I don't want to call it like a guaranteed yield, but the yield is what the yield is on staked ETH and will be there. So as more people should pile into it, it probably should go down, which makes the NYT interesting. So NYTs can never trade for more than 50% of the underlying. Um, and they can trade for as little as a fraction of 1% of the underlying. So if you happen to grab that at the bottom end of that spectrum, your percent increase could be very large, right? Whereas if you were to buy a PYT at, let's say, because it's going to trade on the opposite end, it can go anywhere from 50% of the underlying up to 99.99% of the underlying. But the max you can get there from an appreciation standpoint is double. So the NYT, sorry, actually has a very cool speculative feature attached to it that I think people will enjoy once we kind of finish doing what we're doing here, of just educating people as to how these things work.
That's awesome. It seems like, it's really cool because coming from a traditional finance background, like this is basically, you create a really efficient instrument for speculation on effectively yield, right? Which is such a dominant narrative in the space. So, in terms of like there just seems to be a ton of utility to that because obviously the PYTs you can accrue them if you wanted to optimize your existing yield position, you wanted to get more yield. Whereas the NYTs can be, like you said, a great tool for speculation or even just a hedge for anyone that's doing a lot of yield farming. Just to act as sort of this insurance policy if there was a sudden or precipitous drop in the underlying yield of that token, like of whatever they were doing. So this is it just seems like um that kind of that's one of the sort of the real world traditional finance utilities that the team is bringing into Web3. And like they hate to use the term money Legos, but it very much falls into that. I feel like it very much falls into that category. So how does that evolve into what you guys are working on at Bunny?
Before we transition into Bunny, I do want to hit on that idea of like the narrative around these yield tokens too, because I think it's hard to overstate, and I don't know. I still am new to this part of things because I don't come from the TradFi world. But all I know is that in the TradFi world, interest rate swaps are a multi-trillion-dollar market, and I think we go through seasons, liquid staking derivative season, RB season, solidly fork season. But I don't know if it's now or soon that interest rate swap or yield swap season will start. But between IPOR and Pendle and Timeless, and I don't know who else. I mean, there's obviously a demand for these products, especially amongst sophisticated investors because they're fairly complicated, and there's a lot of money to be made in this type of speculation. So this to me seems as interesting or even more interesting as like the derivatives and options markets like GMX and stuff that if you can capture a small fee of the trading that goes on in an interest rate swap market, you're going to do really, really well. Is that what, Eric, you meant by money ladle? Did you say ladle like a big
So
spoon?
like money Legos, like composable finance.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It just the superpower of composable finance is that it allows for speculation at nearly every level.
Mhm.
And it's like it's always funny when people call crypto a casino, but they don't realize that TradFi is actually just a much larger, much more regulated, much more sophisticated casino, where these types of instruments exist at almost every level.
Yeah, so not only is the interest rate swap market huge and probably profitable if you can extract some rents, but also this is a really important money Lego that we need in the DeFi world to keep building more complex and interesting products that people want to trade and speculate on because of course they want to speculate on it. Um, right now, just one more thing before we get off Timeless. Timeless offers these PYT and NYT tokens on USDC and ETH right now. Is that correct? And is there expansion to other tokens, or what's the plan?
Yeah, so there's actually one more. I'm sorry, I can't remember off the top of my head. I probably do this in the background while I'm bringing it up to figure out what that other one is. But truly, Timeless is actually permissionless when it comes to creating these new pools, which is such a cool feature. So we ended up focusing on ERC 4626 vaults, which is just turning into this standard of how you go about creating yield in crypto, which again, big money Lego term here, and it makes my job extremely easy, because oh, you have yield. The first question is it an ERC 4626? Because if it is, all you have to do on to get your yield on Timeless and start allowing people to speculate on your yield in our yield markets is plug your vault information in. We have a tab on timelessfi.com that's labeled factory, and it'll walk you through the steps. But it's incredibly simple if you have an ERC 4626 vault. Urn vaults are also supported right now, and we have some sort of free to use code out there called Yield Daddy that I'm not sure as to how close it is to being done yet. I know it was just audited, but that should kind of open up the gates to do this a similar thing with Aave vaults as well as maybe Compound. I can't remember who the other one is. Euler, unfortunately, was one of them, I believe. But so a few more options for just the general population to kind of come in and plug and play. So, if you had a Yearn vault in mind that you really wanted to do this with, I mean, you could in a few minutes get up and running with that on Timeless.
Why ETH? I'm surprised no one's done that with Yearn's Why ETH, their composite vault or Frax ETH or something. But yeah, that's awesome. So we're just waiting for more people who are interested in taking those trades to open up more vaults because it's pretty quick.
The YETH is the other vault. I'm sorry for not following up with
Oh,
that.
Why ETH is on there, so you can trade that now.
It's staked ETH, USDC, and their wrapped ETH vault.
Awesome. All right, Eric. Now we can pivot to Bunny.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. I think I do think we're more I don't know, I'm more excited about Bunny just because I understand curve and balancer and incentivization systems more. But I do think, probably long term, I mean, there's so much that's going to happen in the interest rate swap space. So I'm glad we touched on that.
Yeah, the permissionless aspect of it, where you can kind of create one of these we can create one of these swaps and then just kill it if it moves out of range is a really cool innovation because within within sort of TradFi, like these instruments, like, you can make a derivative or an instrument for everything, but to really execute it, you have to find like a desk who will underwrite that swap for you, be the counterparty for it. And so it becomes this like very manual, high touch process. And that, obviously like at different points of time, like creates issues for price discovery. It obviously has significant counterparty risks. And so the fact that like doing this on chain in like a permissionless way where anyone can basically link to the wall and deploy, I think it is like a really, really cool innovation. And that like I think once like the idea of being able to speculate on yield this way becomes more widespread, like that's where you're gonna get a lot more. I think that's where you're gonna get a lot more uptake. Like interest rate swaps or I guess more appropriately for us, so like yield swaps. Are going to be a big part of the space. But I think like just the overall infrastructure, supporting infrastructure is not there yet. And broadly speaking, the players involved are not yet that sophisticated at large. So I think when those two pieces move, like the timeless itself, like the core product becomes really, really interesting. Because it addresses both of those needs.
Absolutely.
I'm glad y'all feel that way. That I feel similarly. I'm very excited about what's going on with Timeless. So how we went from Timeless to Bunny. So we got all this set up right and started pitching it to my first target for um, who we're going to try to introduce this product to, DAOs and DAO treasuries, because they can be more capital efficient. If you were creating yield somewhere to pay for your payroll, we can now make that a more capital efficient experience for you. So we went to them, found out really quickly, which what we kind of already knew, but didn't realize it was as extreme as it was that we needed way more liquidity. And so we set out on a mission, like how are we going to be able to get the deepest liquidity we can in a way that is composable, that other people are going to be able to build on easily, so that we can be one of these building blocks. And what we found out was that we kind of needed to build something custom just for the timeless yield markets. Got that all finished, looked around and realized we had something really cool, started talking to everyone, and kind of noticed that, oh yeah, we might have got like actually caught lightning in a bottle. So quickly there was a move to get gauges for the thing, and we launched Lit token, which is it stands for Liquidity Incentive Token. So I always try to explain to like people jump in our Discord, what is this thing for? It is to incentivize liquidity for protocols that are trying to get liquidity for their token at a capital efficiency that's kind of been unheard of in the Uniswap ecosystem. So, any questions on that, guys?
I think we're good on that, and I like the nominative determinism that when people say, "What does this token do?" You say it incentivizes liquidity. We named it Liquidity Incentive Token. It's perfect. Shockingly, everyone who comes to the Discord still asks first thing though.
Yeah, yeah, it's good. I'm grinning right now because I mean it's great. It's great. So Bunny itself actually enables projects still relying on Uniswap v2 or SushiSwap liquidity to migrate to Uniswap v3 and get access to their concentrated liquidity products, which actually creates that like we're taking advantage of the deep liquidity from the ranges that occurs on Uniswap v3. But then on top of that, we actually take these Uni v3 LP tokens, which are NFTs, and turn them back into ERC20s, which really helps with composability. And this also really, I guess for some reason, I don't know the technical reason behind it, but it must be a lot easier or cheaper gas fee wise to LP with ERC20s. Like the process of creating the NFT must be not the most efficient thing ever as far as gas fees goes. So without even getting into the incentive part of Bunny, we actually have a pretty cool utility there where it's going to be cheaper to LP using Bunny versus using Uniswap v3 directly. Then, enter our gauges, which kind of I guess is the main event for a lot of people that have them so excited about Bunny, bringing this Venomic system onto Uni v3. And so that itself is, as you mentioned, it's got a lot of permissionless aspects to it. We can kill gauges if they go out of range, and actually I think there's a way to restart it if it comes back into range. I found out about that today. So it's a really cool feature that it should again keep everyone pretty capital efficient as far as these protocols incentivizing liquidity. I just want to beat that home, one more time. That's really what we're here to do. So to make a pool on Bunny, it's actually a permissionless process. Anyone can come along, create a new pool, and then go and provide what we're calling a TRC, which is a timeless request for comment. And we have a template on our governance page, which is going to walk you through step by step everything you need to get it in front of the people with all the information that needs to be there. To produce one of these TRCs, you don't need a single lit. You're, of course, not going to be able to vote on anything, but you can go forth and conquer as far as it comes to requesting comment and like proposing something to improve the protocol, or asking for a gauge whitelist. And so we have a super active community that's hungry to see protocols come in, and happy to hear everyone out. We've seen everything from fairly large stablecoin and LSD products to projects that I personally had never heard of before that were launching very recently and needed a way to get liquidity out into the market and chose us as the first pool that they wanted to venture into.
So I guess the question I had was obviously this is this is built off of Uniswap v3 when the value proposition is pretty clear, right? Like if you're a new protocol and you want to incentivize liquidity, this is a more efficient way to do it via to do basically to do it via Uni v3, but with the added benefit of being able to actually incentivize liquidity. Um, and so, and that's, if you were just going through like, oh, we're gonna set up this LP on Unity 3, you obviously like that function, you would forego that functionality. So have you guys kind of been in contact with anybody on the Uniswap team about, what you're building, how this kind of plays into, how this contributes to Uni, and solves that sort of what has been like a really critical shortfall for that protocol relative to, alternatives out there like Curve, and Balancer.
I actually have not been in contact with Uni. I can't speak for the entire team on that. I think everyone at our team obviously likes everything that they've built over there, and we hope that we can grow with these guys. So that that's a pretty motivational question for me to get to work on my end. But no, I at least have not been in talks with anyone from Uniswap.
Yeah, because I think both Salty and I were pretty interested in that in how that plays out because you know obviously one of the big topics at Uniswap is how do we direct real sort of tangible monetary value to this token that currently really only exists for governance purposes. Um, and we kind of look at timeless and just say, well, it feels like the answer is just it's just timeless. Because it adds that component that allows you to not only incentivize liquidity but like redirect like real value and yield back to the token holder. And so it's like a much more or like organic flywheel. I think we're just really curious as to like because this seems to be something that the Uniswap V3, the Uniswap team should be really in favor of a want to grow with the DEX. Just because it adds that really critical complement that they don't have versus some of the other protocols.
It would be a really interesting conversation to have. I mean, the door's definitely open, and maybe I can walk through it here soon and just get some feedback because I think we would like to hear their opinion as to obviously they're not done growing, and so getting on the same page and again working together is ideal in my opinion. But we've just been so busy, like it's been nonstop. Where we're at, it's like every day when I wake up, like oh man, this is what we need to focus on today. So there hasn't really been like I don't feel like we're kind of in a sit back and um, ask mode right now. It's really been build, 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 build. But yeah, that's something that should happen very soon. Thank you for bringing it up.
I think what's interesting here too is that uni uni's in such an odd position. They have this incredible first mover advantage. They have this incredible branding and name recognition, and they did a lot to bring the constant product AMM to the forefront of DeFi. Whether that's good or bad, I think it's hard to say. I mean, it really is doing a lot of things maybe it wasn't initially created for. Uniswap, of course, did not invent the constant product AMM or anything. Um, but they have this token that's worth so much money, and they have all these investors. but they're one of those types of companies that doesn't make any money, right? And you can see them working on that because, I think if Alpine were very profitable, um, Uniswap Labs, they do a lot of research. They have very smart people there. If Alpine were a profitable enterprise for most, especially retail actors, they would make, it would be easy to publish that data and it would be easy to show it. But it's not because it isn't. It's very it can be quite hard to profit as an LP. So that's already the case. And then you get something like Uni V3, and Uni V3 is even more complicated and requires even more active liquidity management and maybe is even harder to profit from. And so you have these people saying, well, we should turn on a fee switch. We should take fees from LPs. And I mean, that's a really tough call. And I think there's a reason that that isn't happening, which is that LPs are already losing money unless they're really, really good at what they do. And so then if you take even more money from them, you're gonna have an even harder time getting liquidity there. But you have this huge first mover advantage. You are the go-to place, so maybe you can maintain that. But I think there's a reason Uniswap it's branching out into NFTs. It's branching out into like building wallets and mobile and all this stuff because it just I mean, what money does Uniswap generate right now? And if they start taking more money from the users who LP on there, it's not gonna be, pretty maybe. And so, different dexes have tried to solve this. Others just don't solve it and just say, well, hopefully nobody notices that LPing isn't that profitable and they don't notice for long enough and we'll just keep existing. I won't name names, but like, Balancer has different ways of approaching this. Curve has different ways of approaching this. That even as fees go down, there are different um, mechanisms by which you can generate revenue, especially that isn't just fee revenue, which again doesn't always offset impermanent loss. But that without something, it's hard for I can't predict the future, but it's hard for me to imagine that the first mover advantage lasts forever and at the scale it is without something like what Bunny is building on top. Because um, you know the world of going to Uniswap and doing a trade, I don't think that's going to last forever. Aggregators are here and they've been here for a while, and now we have aggregators of aggregators. And as these interfaces get more abstracted away, uh, people will just trade, and the trades will be routed through the most convenient place and the cheapest place. And so maybe I think a lot of Uniswap traffic literally comes from people who they just go to uniswap.org. They don't know any other way. And so Uniswap can be very, very efficient, especially with very tight liquidity bands. With tight enough liquidity bands, it can be even more efficient than Curve, constant product type stuff. But but that increases the risk of impermanent loss. And so what Bunny's done in this very simple thing, which is we're putting a gauge and emission system with a voter escrow on top of Uni, is really solving, in my mind, a series of problems. Some of which are more extant now, and some of them will get worse in the future. But it's solving this series of problems, which is it collects fee revenue, it distributes it, it socializes the gains and revenue, and it socializes the losses, which is especially important when you're looking at things that have tighter and wider bands, and that takes a lot of variability out of things. So not only I'd also we can talk about the significance of being able to spin up cheap liquidity on Uniswap, because I think it's impossible to overstate how important that part is too. But already, this kind of structure is a huge deal because Uniswap V3 is not a winning game for most retail participants to play, but it can be in this other way.
Yep, I totally get what where you're coming from. I think that's I mean it's a regular conversation I have. How do we get these protocols over to Uniswap v3 so that and in a way where they can continue to keep all the infrastructure that they already have and make it easy to build on top of. And at the same time, how do we get those who actually want to provide liquidity way to do it efficiently. Like I more than anything, and I think we should advocate for a healthy ecosystem. Like um, I want to see. You brought up the Uniswap fee argument. And truthfully, I don't know the answer. But I think at the end of the day, like what we really need to be focused on is how can we create a healthy environment for those who want to do the underlying job. If LPs aren't making money and only the best of the best of the best are making money on it, we're always going to struggle with liquidity. Like Web3 in general needs to solve this problem. So yeah, healthy environments, and um, we shall see. It's going to take a while, I think, but I think this was a step in the right direction.
Yeah, yeah, I like what you're saying about health and democratizing gain and loss and like making it a more positive sub, and that it's like, turning a fee switch on Uni is just saying, hey, give me some of your revenue. And you say, okay, what do I get in return? Nothing, just give me some of your revenue. Like, it's just people holding the token get money. Okay, like that's cool, but who wants to LP and just have somebody take their revenue and give them nothing in return? um the other piece of this that's stood out to me, I don't get too excited about too many projects too frequently. People on the Discord here can attest to that, but I'm pretty excited about Timeless and Bunny. Is like what you mentioned with the liquidity, and I know we talked about this before, but I remember back, this is probably in 2021, Tetranode talking about um like one of the key product offerings of something like Curve, which he owns a lot of, is cheap liquidity. And that, if you're a project and you want to launch a token, you have to have liquidity. Well, you know how hard it is to get half a million or $1 million. Like, not that easy, especially if you don't have connections. You're not from a country where you can know people who might have money like that. But if you can rent it, it's orders of magnitude cheaper. And this is like, I mean, the product market fit of all time is like, you want to launch a token, people will trade your token, they'll generate revenue trading it. Great. We'll loan you, you incentivize people to vote for your token. So you give us a big chunk of the fee revenue from swapping it, and we give you a bunch of emissions and tokens that your people can hold or sell, do whatever they want with. So you don't have to do this pool two madness. You don't have to do this farm and dump madness, and you don't have to find millions of dollars to try and spin up an LP yourself. I mean, this is a huge barrier of entry, right? Like, it's interesting maybe to even think about like how many smart projects or interesting protocols were never built because somebody couldn't raise the money needed to spin up an initial LP. So then instead, this is like an arch villain arc. They just turn evil and start launching shit coins on Optimism and Arbitrum. There's a lot of smart devs doing a lot of smart stuff, and anything we can do to make it easier. Who cares if the coin fails or not? Maybe it does well or not, but like, there should be a lower barrier of entry where you can get more than 10 grand, let's say an LP, to launch your product. And as long as you can bribe people to do it on a platform like Bunny, I mean, that's a huge deal. And there's no other way to do that on Uniswap right now. I think that's a key takeaway for the value case, is that there's no other way. And unless you want to have people farm and dump your tokens. Oh, which is also, that's part of what Bunny did, right? Is Bunny Bunny allows tokenized NFT positions of a V3 like range position, right? Like it makes Uni V3 positions portable.
Yeah, turning them back into the ERC20s.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's an interesting aspect of it too, because I've seen in Bunny that there are people who have deposited LP there that aren't getting any emissions, just because of the convenience of having an ERC20 that auto compounds its own interest. I mean, that alone is a whole product.
It really is, and that's kind of like, when I go to projects and start pitching them on this stuff, uh, it's like a staggered thing, right? It's like, well, if you start with this, just using Bunny, we don't have to do any sort of gauge listing or anything for you. Like, there's a lot to be had, um, efficiency wise just by getting on Bunny and getting back into these ERC20s. I'm really excited to see, because like I said, it's just been a dead sprint, right? But I'm excited now. Like one of the things we're focusing on now is like, okay, how can we give value to our LP tokens downstream? So I'm starting to go to protocols. Um, shouldn't name anybody yet, but try to find ways to use it as collateral or different things like that because it's so easy to build on because we used ERC20s. So good eye.
Yeah, I know there's and there's even built into UniV3. What is it? UniV3 stake. There's a function built in UniV3 for some of this the staker, but no one uses that. And I've read various things about why they don't. Since we're talking about, you talking to other protocols, maybe we could, since I've gushed enough about why I think this is such a big deal, and you've explained it so well, maybe we could touch a little on, I know there's partnerships with like Balancer because the VE token, which it's such a brilliant idea, and it's great Balancer does this. The VE token is actually a Balancer pool token, a 80/20 lit ETH. There's partnership with Hidden Hand for a bribe market, and there's partnership with Paladin, Warden, Quest for a bribe market. Um, do you want to touch on those briefly? And then are there any other partnerships you could tell us about that are upcoming or current?
So like you mentioned these three guys. The two I'll go ahead and we love everybody who's supporting us, and we want to turn around and support them as much as possible. The two bribe markets are adding a ton of utility to lit token, which I don't know. Like I don't know who should go and own lit. It's to incentivize liquidity. So it's definitely not for everybody to go jump into. Like you really kind of have to have a purpose behind why you want to get that token. But for the people who do have it and stake to vote on the direction of these gauges, as of right now, there's no sort of revenue share. So a lot of these folks, kind of did what happens in Web3, where they just ape into the token and then stake it, and they're like, "Where's my APY?" Well, there's not any because we don't do any rev share yet. Which, by the way, at any point the community can change, but as of right now, there's none. So these bribe markets are huge, right? And our community is so excited about that. Paladin has launched, I think, 3 quests at this point, and just almost instantly, like within 24 hours, they were all three completely sold out. Like you couldn't get into them, which they have a fixed APY that you get for voting. So I guess it kind of limits how many votes can go into it. And they weren't necessarily the biggest quests in the entire world, but I don't think it even really scratched the surface as to how hungry our community is to be incentivized to vote because they're not getting any APY in other places. Everybody's bullish on this thing, but rev share's not been turned on yet. So they're providing a ton of utility to the community. I love the people over at Hidden Hand. I actually just had a conversation with them today. I think kind of like us with our deep liquidity matched with a protocol that does like a full range liquidity. I think that Hidden Hand and Paladin kind of have a similar thing going where maybe you want to hit X goal and you put that into Paladin, but you have some other funds that are allocated for incentives. Throw that in the Hidden Hand market and see what happens. And I think it's a really cool combination. I believe that Timeless actually just had a improve or a request for comment that went to snapshot vote and passed. That's going to move. Um, I think it's 50%. I'm sorry, guys. I don't know. It's either 50% or 100%. I feel like it's 50% of fees that the protocol earns. It's actually going to push those back into bribes on Hidden Hand, so that it's just going to be even more incentives, using these partners, for lack of a better term, that we have. We're hopeful to kind of see the flywheel effect grow from things like this, and couldn't be more excited for our partners that we already have. Uh, I don't have any major alpha on partnership front. I'd love, just to spill the beans on all the different protocols. Um, I'm on my end as like constantly talking to, right. There's just a big spreadsheet that every couple of days, right. The goal right now is just to stay in front of these people, and there's a lot of people or a lot of protocols super interested, learning more. Hopefully we can kind of first off, let me just say, terrible about the whole Euler situation, but I do hope we can fill a little bit of that void. So those are some protocols to kind of look out for, and you might know a few of the people that I'm poking around with. But if you go check out our governance information, there's all of them are actually posted on our Discord, so it's super easy to get access to. You'll see, some portion of the community at Badger just passed uh, a proposal to get a whitelist.
I saw that. That was very exciting. Yeah, maybe Badger Lit coming one day too.
So there's a big list on there. I mean, you could just I don't want to get too carried away with I don't like speculating on what's to come, right? But there's a lot of protocols that are like, yeah, this might make sense for us to use you guys to incentivize liquidity. So I don't have a ton of alpha there, but fingers crossed. And I would check out our Discord governance uh, page for more information if you were curious on that front.
Has there been what's the sort of the planning thought process right now in terms of going multi-chain and going after some opportunities like GLP GMX yield boosting?
Yep. So we absolutely have on our roadmap to get lit incentives multi-chain. Um, we're actually permissionless and multi-chain on both Timeless and Bunny. So everything is already on there for mainnet, Polygon, Optimism, and Arby.
Can you say how that might work? Like there will be a separate lit token on Arby, like a lit or something, or how would that work?
So I don't know if the technicals are finalized. So I don't want to say too much there because that could really change at any point. But I would expect it all to end up back on mainnet. I don't foresee us having a lit.
Yeah, so maybe, but like I could put my Arbitrum Uniswap LP on Arbitrum there and get lit rewards on mainnet, maybe.
Yep. So exactly. You're gonna be able to as long again it's not done, so it's hard to say. But hypothetically, you're gonna be able to um, create this LP on Arby and be rewarded in OLIT, and when you turn that into lit, that's where it will probably happen on mainnet. I'm not sure
Mm.
how exactly that what we need to have happen is we need to have it so that people can vote on gauges that reward on other chains. So, or at least reward LPs on other chains.
We didn't maybe get into this too much, but I'll just briefly mention, and maybe you could summarize it better. That so the rewards are given out in OLIT, which is an option to buy lit at some discount. Right now, the discount's 50%. So instead of just getting tons of lit, I get an option to buy lit. When I buy the lit, I get it at a discount, so I could immediately go sell it. but the money I exchange to exercise the option gets taken into the protocol, and that's another big revenue source for Lit, which is a brilliant design. I know Tapioca has an option thing like that going on. It makes me think of Andre's Keeper. The rewards there were in options, but I love that design because you can farm and dump still, but at least some of your farming and dumping is still going to help the protocol.
For sure. Thank you for bringing that up. So, I mean, you explained it pretty well, or as well as should be expected. So, um, right now, that option is a 50% discount, and that discount can change at any point. It's totally up to the community. They can make it a 1% discount. They can make it a 99% discount and kind of get back to something normal if we felt like there was a ton of pushback. But as you said, most people are like, "Wow, this seems like a good step in the right direction." I personally, as someone who is trying to work inside this protocol on a daily basis, am excited to see that our treasury's constantly growing, right? Like there's plenty of funding at this point, and things it's again, it's healthy for the future of Timeless and Bunny.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry for that derailment. I mean, it's just the number of revenue sources and them being like maybe non-exploited, non-extractive. I don't know how you say it, but there's a lot of good, clean, revenue sources here, which I think is awesome. But sorry, I didn't want to distract us off the L2s. I think you would describe most of how the L2 would work, and beyond that, it's like speculation, right? Like this isn't fully built out.
Yeah, until there's more information on it, we're just kind of speculating on that front.
But is there do you know Eric asked about like GLP or GMX or
Oh
something
yeah,
like
yeah,
is
yeah.
that
I can give you some alpha there. So it won't be through GMX. And by the way, like we're big fans of what they're doing too. But there is a third party that is working on a GLP 4626 vault. And so, that's going to be pretty easy for us to work with. There's actually a few. It seems to be like that's somebody you're calling out. There's a lot of people interested in that. These vaults are going to be made, and they will eventually end up on Timeless. The earliest one I can kind of expect, like I'm really hopeful for next month. Probably safe to bet on May for us to have something GLP related on Timeless.
Hey, all right, that's soon. That's awesome.
Is there any plans in the works to create like a convex type of wrapper for vlet?
There have been several projects uh, express interest in doing this.
You can't tell us who they are, can you?
Yeah, it's probably not a great idea.
No worries. Yeah.
That can just kind of create this crazy snowball effect, but quite a surprising amount, and one actually just came on the forefront recently. Um, it's probably a little bit more complicated than just a generic wrapper, and that one, we're still trying to decide technically if that one's going to be possible. But that one would actually probably be the fastest. I think they have the team that could implement it quickly and kind of get it up and going. There's a lot of politics involved with the wrappers too that I wasn't really prepared for. But some of the people who already, have their ecosystem and have their wrapper, um, it might be harder for one of those guys to do that with lit as well. So ball's kind of up in the air, but there are people you would expect and people you wouldn't, or projects you probably haven't heard of that have, in one form or another, had a conversation with us about this.
Oh yeah, that makes me think of too. So you got the bribe markets, which are a revenue source for VE lit holders. And then, like we're talking about potential wrappers, which is something analogous to Convex. There's also a potential revenue source, and I think I saw some discussion in the Discord about this, which is renting out your boost, right? Like if I own a bunch of VE lit, I want to get paid to vote on the gauges, and that's through a bribe market. But if I'm not LPing, I would also love to get paid by renting my boost out to somebody who is LPing. And I know there are other protocols that do boost rental through Stake DAO and other people like that. So I don't know if anything's official in going on with that, but I've seen some discussion in the discords about that as well, which would be another awesome revenue source.
Huh. Yeah, that one's new to me. I haven't seen too much on that. As far as I'm aware, inside of our ecosystem, there's no limit on how much boost you can get. So you could LP in every pool. Um, so I think that I could see how that could cause an issue on the renting it out, because then,
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
but it's a cool idea. Yeah, I'll have to look more into that. I don't know if there's a way for us to put some sort of limit on it as well. Probably not. It's probably too
Mm.
difficult.
And maybe technically it might be hard or impossible to delegate your entire boost, to somebody.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm holding out hopes though, because like we need to get some sort of convex-ish layer going, because there are a bunch of people who were smart enough not to ape in, but now they're kind of waiting on the sidelines for that new layer to be built on top of Bunny.
Yeah, I personally was not patient enough to do that.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, in case it's not clear, Salty locked his entire bag for like the maximum amount of time. So
Awesome.
Look, not financial advice, but if anybody's looking at this or Curve or anything else where you lock for 4 years, I think the risk return is always better to lock 1 quarter as much instead for 4 years instead of 4 times as much for 1 year in terms of capital efficiency and opportunity cost. But not financial advice. You do what you want. I saw the bribes rolling in. I got in on one of the last bribe rounds. I saw it like right before I went to bed. So I said, all right, 100% APR. I don't regret locking, although it's 100% APR for 2 weeks. So maybe it doesn't last.
Hey,
But yes, I just locked. Okay, I didn't lock every single bit of it, but I'm not waiting around for a wrapper. I would guess most people would. I get that. That's exciting to know that there are discussions going on.
everyone's kind of got their opinion, right? Like on how to handle these phenomics, like what to do with that. I can appreciate your thought on locking a fourth for the whole time period and doing it that way. Like as we with 88 MPH first, like we switched from X MPH to V MPH, and so I had to learn the whole thing. And I wish I had someone to just give me the TLDR in 15 seconds of that math. So very very cool for you to share that. I'm really excited to know that we're gonna have you around for 4 years.
I can't leave even if I wanted to.
Right.
I do. One I would say I've said this before, but I don't know if I've said it on a podcast before. But I think all the time that the death of the VE token has been greatly exaggerated. Everyone's always coming out with, "Oh, we got this new model. VE's terrible." And I'm not saying VE's the end all be all, but man, especially for something like this, socializing, distributing liquidity incentives, cheap liquidity rental provisioning. I mean, it really. I don't think the industry has found a better system yet. Not saying they never will, but the death of the VE has been greatly exaggerated. Don't be scared. You can lock. Just consider it gone forever. What's 4 years? You're gonna relock it too, right? When you lock for 4 years, you're not gonna sit there and let it expire for those 4 years, losing out on revenue the whole time. You're gonna keep relocking in perpetuity. So either you do it or you give it to somebody like Convex and they do it for you.
You're right. I mean, you're playing or you're not. I guess you're short, if you're here to stay, I guess if you're just a day trader, maybe you're not doing that. But if you're using the token for what it was designed for, yeah, makes total sense to me. I'm jealous, I've got like my little bag, but I'm looking forward to actually um, participating a little bit more.
It was it felt like an easy sell at the market cap and stuff it was at. Although it's, it's had a solid price floor too. So we don't need to talk too much price and everything, but I think it's for all the emissions there are, there's clearly a lot of people locking. I think there's I don't know all that's on your Dune dashboards, but there are smart folks in the Discord who are coming up with dashboards and more analytics. So I think that stuff is all worth tracking. Um, we could I don't know if we have any more stuff on our agenda, Eric, that you like definitely want to hit on. I don't know if we want to open the floor.
Yeah, I think if anything, we can probably round off here. Dakota, thank you so much for the time today. This is super helpful. I really appreciate you coming on here and talking to us. Despite like a really busy schedule. This session, particularly for me, I think answered a lot of the outstanding questions I had about Lit and the direction of the project. So and hopefully, for those of you guys listening in the Discord right now, it's also helpful as well. If you have any additional questions, direct them. You can direct them to Salty, and then he can go pound pavement for us in the Timeless Discord. Because he's there for 4 years. So don't be shy. All right. Well, Dakota, thanks again. It was a pleasure. And really really excited about Timeless this year. I think as we were having this call, I TWAP some more.
Wait, on the call, you're
On the call, I was TWAPing on the call, man. You gotta time is money.
That's hilarious.
If you're not TWAPing, you're not making money.
That's funny. Yeah, guys, I really enjoyed this. Thank you guys for having me on. It's my job to do this stuff, but I still really enjoy it. So, I'm happy to come on anytime. Like even if it's something small and you guys just want, my quick thoughts on it, or you have a few questions, or you want me to be a part of, like whatever you guys need, right? Like I'm happy to do that. Truthfully, I am normally like lights out asleep about 42 minutes ago. It's just how my body works. Like I'm up pretty early in the morning, and then I like try to wind down real quick and call it a night, or like at the end of the day. So would love to come on. Happy to even come on later if that needs to happen that way. But I had a blast. Really enjoyed my time here, and yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks again.